What if the next flood doesn't just hit the news? What if it hits your doorstep? The streets you drive on, the home you sleep in, the food you eat, all just one storm away from being washed out. This isn't a distant threat, it's happening now, faster and harder than anyone imagined. Imagine waking up to the sound of roaring water, not the calm patter of rain on your roof, but a deafening rush, louder than any thunderstorm you've ever heard. You open your door, expecting to see the familiar street outside, but it's gone. In its place is a raging river, tearing through your neighborhood like it owns the place. Cars bob past like helpless paper boats. Streetlights disappear under muddy waves. In just minutes, water climbs over doorsteps, windows, even rooftops. Families scramble to higher ground, clutching whatever they can grab, a few clothes, some documents, maybe a child's toy. The smell of gasoline, sewage, and earth fills the air. This isn't a movie scene. This isn't some far-off dystopian future. It's happening right now, all across the globe. In Pakistan, entire villages have vanished underwater. In Germany and Belgium, rivers swelled so quickly that whole towns were wiped out overnight. In China, streets turned to deadly canals, trapping people in cars and subways. In the United States, storms flood communities that have never seen such destruction before. And here's the part that should make us all stop and think: these floods aren't just natural disasters. They're warnings, written in water, that humans helped create. For decades, scientists have been sounding the alarm about climate change, but it's not some distant theory anymore. The world is hotter than ever before, and a hotter world behaves differently. Warmer air holds more moisture. That means when clouds finally break, they don't just sprinkle rain, they dump torrents. Days of rainfall can fall in hours. But that's not all. Glaciers are melting. Sea levels are rising. Forests and wetlands, which once soaked up excess rain like sponges, are being bulldozed to build cities and roads. Rivers are being choked with garbage, their natural paths blocked or narrowed by unplanned construction. The result? When heavy rain comes, the water has nowhere to go, except straight into our homes. And these disasters are hitting harder and faster than ever. One moment, you're sitting down for dinner. The next, you're on the roof, waving at rescue helicopters. These aren't once-in-a-century floods anymore, they're becoming annual events. Think about it. A family in Sindh watches their farmland disappear. A mother in Kentucky lifts her baby above rising water. A shopkeeper in Germany finds his entire store washed away overnight. Different countries. Different languages. Same pain. Floods are no longer someone else's problem. They are the planet's way of speaking a language we can all understand: I am changing, because of you. If water could talk, it wouldn't whisper. It would roar: stop heating this world. Stop cutting down its trees. Stop pretending you have time. Because the truth is, water doesn't wait. And the next door it comes knocking on, could be yours. Floods have always been part of Earth's story. Rivers overflow, storms hit, and sometimes nature just flexes its muscles. But lately, something has changed. Floods are no longer rare accidents, they're becoming routine disasters. And behind it all is a culprit we've created ourselves: climate change. Our planet is heating up, not by chance, but because of how we live. When we burn coal to power factories, oil to fuel our cars, and gas to heat our homes, we release carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. These gases trap heat, acting like an invisible blanket wrapped around the Earth. Now, a blanket sounds cozy, right? But this one is suffocating the planet. Every year, temperatures creep higher. And even a small rise, 1 or 2 degrees Celsius, has massive consequences. Why? Because a warmer atmosphere behaves differently. Warmer air can hold more moisture. Think of it like a giant sponge in the sky. The hotter it gets, the more water vapor that sponge soaks up. But here's the catch: sponges don't hold water forever. When clouds get heavy, they don't just drizzle, they dump. Torrential rains fall in hours instead of days, overwhelming rivers, dams, and drainage systems. And rain isn't the only problem. Glaciers and polar ice are melting at record speed. When that ice melts, sea levels rise. Coastal cities that were once safe now face higher tides and storm surges. Even a few extra inches of sea level can turn an ordinary storm into a catastrophic flood. Add deforestation to the mix. Forests that once absorbed rainfall like a natural shield are being cut down to make space for farms, roads, and cities. Wetlands, which used to store excess rainwater, are disappearing. With nature's defenses stripped away, water rushes unchecked into towns and villages. Here's an easy way to see it. A warmer Earth, more evaporation. More evaporation, heavier storms. Heavier storms plus rising seas flood cities can't handle. It's a deadly chain reaction. But this isn't just about water. It's about people. When floods strike, they don't just soak the ground, they wash away lives. In rural areas, farmers lose entire harvests. Crops rot under floodwaters, livestock drown, and fertile soil is ruined. That means less food and higher prices, even in places far from the disaster. In cities, families lose homes and belongings. Imagine years of saving swept away in minutes: no roof, no electricity, no drinking water. Children lose schools. Books, classrooms, and playgrounds vanish under the mud, interrupting education for months or even years. And in the worst cases, people lose loved ones. Flash floods can appear in minutes, giving no time to escape. The human cost is staggering. Entire communities are displaced. Millions become climate refugees, forced to leave everything behind because the land where they lived is now uninhabitable. And the heartbreak doesn't end when the water recedes. After a flood, there's disease from contaminated water, hunger from ruined crops, and poverty from destroyed businesses. Recovery takes years, if it ever happens at all. These aren't distant stories. They're happening right now. In Bangladesh, rising sea levels swallow villages every year, forcing people to migrate inland. In Pakistan, 2022, 1/3 of the country went underwater, leaving over 30 million people stranded. In Germany and Belgium, 2021, entire towns were wiped out by sudden floods. In the US, storms are flooding areas that have never seen such destruction before, catching communities off guard. No matter where you live, the pattern is clear: as the world heats up, the floods get worse. And they don't discriminate between rich or poor, big cities or small villages. Everyone is at risk. If we keep ignoring the problem, what was once called a 100-year flood, an event so rare it's supposed to happen only once a century, could soon happen every few years. The science is simple. The warnings are loud. But here's the real question: will we listen before it's too late? In Pakistan, 2022, it looked like the end of the world. 1/3 of the country was underwater. Villages were wiped clean off the map. Roads, bridges, and farmland disappeared beneath muddy torrents. Over 30 million people were affected, families stranded on rooftops, children floating on makeshift rafts, parents wading through chest-deep water to find food and medicine. The disaster didn't just destroy homes. It destroyed hope. Farmers lost entire harvests, leaving millions on the edge of hunger. Diseases like cholera spread rapidly through contaminated water. Aid arrived, but never fast enough, because entire regions had been cut off from the outside world. In Europe, 2021, flash floods swept through Germany and Belgium with terrifying speed. These were not tropical storms in faraway countries, these were wealthy, developed nations with strong infrastructure. Yet entire towns were destroyed overnight. Rivers that had been peaceful for generations turned into raging monsters. Roads became rivers, basements became death traps, and rescue crews worked around the clock to find survivors trapped in their homes. The shock was palpable. This doesn't happen here, people thought. But it did. In the United States, 2023, the floods came in waves. In Kentucky, rainfall so heavy it should only happen once every 1,000 years destroyed entire neighborhoods. In California, normally dry regions turned into vast lakes, catching communities completely off guard. People who had never worried about flooding suddenly found themselves waist-deep in water, begging for rescue. And now, 2025 has brought even more grim reminders. In Brazil, the Amazon region saw the worst flooding in decades, submerging towns that had never experienced such high water levels. In Bangladesh and India, monsoon rains intensified by climate change displaced millions yet again, forcing families to live in crowded shelters without food or clean drinking water. In China, record-breaking floods along the Yangtze River destroyed thousands of homes and factories, disrupting global supply chains. Even Dubai, in the Middle East, saw streets turn into rivers after unprecedented rainfall, a place known for deserts, not floods. The most terrifying part? These disasters are no longer rare. What we used to call once-in-a-lifetime floods are now happening every few years, sometimes every few months. This is the new normal. And the water doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care if you're rich or poor. In villages, floods wash away fragile mud homes. In megacities, floods rush through underground subways, luxury apartments, and shopping malls. In rural farms, families lose livestock and crops. In wealthy suburbs, people lose cars, electronics, and priceless family memories. Whether you live in a high-rise in New York or a small house in Sindh, water will find its way in. It is the great equalizer, and it's knocking on everyone's door. Floods are also becoming faster and deadlier. In the past, communities had time to prepare. Rivers would rise slowly, and warnings would go out days in advance. Now, thanks to extreme weather, heavy rain can fall in just hours, overwhelming dams, breaking levees, and sweeping people away before they even realize what's happening. Think of a family sitting down to dinner, and within an hour, their home is under water. Imagine children going to bed at night, and waking up to find their entire street turned into a lake. This is not fiction. This is reality for millions today. What's more, the aftermath is brutal. Once the cameras leave and headlines fade, survivors are left with nothing: no homes, no jobs, no clean water. The mud left behind by floods is toxic, filled with sewage and chemicals. Schools remain closed. Roads remain broken. People who were already poor fall even deeper into poverty. And even those who were well off discover that money can't buy safety when nature strikes. This is why scientists and experts call floods the silent global crisis. They don't explode like bombs, but they destroy lives just as effectively. And as long as the planet keeps heating up, as long as we keep cutting forests, blocking rivers, and building cities without planning, these disasters will only get worse. Floods are no longer a warning. They're a message written in water, shouting loud and clear. No one is safe. Not anymore. Some people shrug off floods when they see them on the news. It's far away, they think. It won't affect me. But that's the biggest mistake anyone can make. Climate change doesn't respect borders. It doesn't carry a passport. It doesn't care whether you live in a village in Asia or a skyscraper in New York. Climate change is a chain reaction, and floods are just the first link. When one country floods, food prices rise everywhere. Imagine a rice-growing region underwater. Suddenly, global rice supplies shrink. Prices spike in markets across continents. You pay more, even if your own city stayed dry. When farmland is destroyed, global hunger spreads. Wheat in Pakistan, corn in the US, soybeans in Brazil, if any of these fail due to floods, the entire food system shakes. What affects farmers on one continent shows up on dinner tables worldwide. When millions lose homes, climate refugees cross borders. People fleeing disaster zones don't just vanish, they move, seeking safety. Neighboring countries face pressure, tensions rise, and humanitarian crises grow. It's like throwing a stone into a still pond. The splash may start in one spot, but the ripples travel outward until they touch every edge. Floods in one corner of the world are not isolated events, they are warnings for all of us. If we keep ignoring them, sooner or later, we're next. And here's the twist most people don't realize: humans are not just victims of these floods, we're also the cause. Look around our modern cities. Streets are paved over. Drains are clogged. Rivers are buried under concrete or choked with garbage. Wetlands and marshes, nature's natural flood control systems, are bulldozed to build shopping malls, housing colonies, or highways. We've created a world where rain has nowhere to go. In the past, when heavy rain fell, water soaked into the ground, filtered through forests, or spread harmlessly into fields and wetlands. But now? The water hits asphalt and concrete, races down clogged drains, and pools in places it's not supposed to, in basements, on highways, in homes. Even a moderate storm can turn disastrous, simply because we've designed our cities to trap water instead of releasing it. Think about it. A new luxury plaza replaces a marsh that once absorbed rainfall. A housing scheme builds over a natural drainage channel. Garbage fills a river, turning it into a dam. Then, when the storm comes, people act surprised that their streets have turned into rivers. But this isn't bad luck, it's bad planning. And climate change makes it worse. Warmer temperatures mean more evaporation. More evaporation means heavier rain. Heavier rain hits cities already unprepared, creating a deadly combination. We've built time bombs in concrete and then handed the weather the trigger. This isn't just an issue for other people. Every flood affects more than the local victims. When disaster strikes in South Asia, Africa, or Europe, global markets shudder. Crops are lost, supply chains are disrupted, factories shut down, and migration pressures grow. Even if you live in a country far from these disasters, you feel it in your wallet, your grocery bill, your taxes, and your security. Let's take an example. When Pakistan flooded in 2022, cotton crops were destroyed. That pushed up textile prices worldwide. Clothing became more expensive even in countries thousands of miles away. When Europe flooded in 2021, car factories had to shut down because supply chains broke. That delay affected vehicle deliveries everywhere, including Asia and America. When U.S. farmlands flood, global grain prices soar, affecting food costs from Africa to the Middle East. Everything is connected. Climate change is not a local problem, it's a global domino effect. And the worst part? Many of these disasters are avoidable. It's not just about cutting emissions, though that's crucial. It's about smarter planning. Cities need proper drainage systems. Rivers must flow freely, not be strangled by trash and illegal construction. Wetlands and forests should be protected as natural shields. But right now, we're doing the opposite. We're paving over nature and acting shocked when nature fights back. We're creating a planet where the rain has no escape routes except through our living rooms. If we don't fix this, the floods we see on TV won't stay on TV. The next headlines might be about your own town, your own street, your own home. Here's the good news: while we can't stop the rain, we can stop turning rain into disaster. Floods aren't just a force of nature, they're a test of how we treat our planet and how we plan our cities. And right now, we're failing that test. But there's still time to turn things around. The first step is attacking the problem at its source. Climate change. The more greenhouse gases we pump into the atmosphere, the hotter the Earth gets, and the worse floods become. That means we need to shift away from fossil fuels, coal, oil, and gas, and move toward clean energy like wind, solar, and hydro. It's not just about governments building massive power plants. It's about every country, every business, every household playing a part. Switching to energy-efficient appliances, supporting public transport instead of driving everywhere, and investing in renewable energy all add up. Each ton of carbon dioxide we prevent from entering the atmosphere is one less blow against our climate. Forests, wetlands, and mangroves aren't just pretty scenery, they are nature's flood defenses. Forests slow rainfall and help it soak into the ground instead of running off in destructive torrents. Wetlands act like giant sponges, storing water during storms and slowly releasing it later. Mangroves along coastlines block storm surges and protect communities from flooding. But right now, these natural shields are disappearing. Every time a wetland is drained for real estate, or a mangrove forest is cut down for shrimp farms, we make ourselves more vulnerable. Protecting these ecosystems isn't charity, it's survival. Reforestation projects, strict laws against illegal logging, and incentives to restore natural habitats can drastically reduce flood risks. Most cities were designed for weather patterns that no longer exist. Old drainage systems can't handle the intense rainstorms we face today. Rivers are choked by illegal construction. Many urban areas have no proper flood mapping, meaning people build homes in places that are basically water traps. We need smarter, climate-resilient cities. That means installing modern drainage systems to handle heavier rain. Building stronger dams and levees where needed. Using permeable pavements so rain can soak into the ground instead of rushing into streets. Setting up early warning systems to alert communities hours or even days before disaster strikes. Some cities are already leading the way. For example, Rotterdam in the Netherlands has water plazas, public squares that double as emergency reservoirs during heavy rain. Singapore redesigned its entire drainage network to prevent flash floods. If they can do it, so can the rest of the world. It's easy to think, I'm just one person. What can I do? But individual choices add up. We can all use less plastic, because plastic clogs drains and rivers. Plant trees, even small ones, to help absorb rainwater. Reduce waste and water pollution, keeping our waterways clear. Support eco-friendly businesses and policies, pushing leaders to take action. Educate others, because awareness spreads faster than floods when people actually care. When millions of individuals make small changes, the impact is massive. Floods are sending us a message: fix your planet, or we'll do it for you, the hard way. This is not just about science, it's about survival. Every flooded street, every destroyed farm, every displaced family is a warning. We can choose to act now, while solutions are still in our hands, or we can wait until nature forces us to act when it's too late. The question is simple but urgent: will we listen in time? If we work together, governments, businesses, communities, and individuals, we can rewrite this story. We can turn deadly floods into manageable storms. We can protect our homes, our food, and our future. The rain will keep falling, but it doesn't have to keep destroying. The choice is ours, and the clock is ticking. The next time you see floodwaters on the news, remember, this isn't a random tragedy. It's a message written in water: climate change is real, and it's here. The world is at a crossroads. We can drown in denial, or we can rise with action. The choice is ours, and time is running out.